Welcome to Science You Had Me at Hello. My name is Melissa Rancourt, and it's a pleasure to be here today to welcome today's episode. And this broadcast series is designed to help inspire the next generation in science. How do we do that? By asking awe-inspiring individuals to share their story. And when I think of the awe-inspiring speakers that we have today, I can't help but think of the word resilience. And this word is an amazing word because it's both science with a definition and also business or life. In any case, it's about our ability to change, our ability to adjust to change, to thrive, to succeed, and with whatever comes our way. And I can't also think of a better partner to work with today than that is AIG. In fact, that definition of both science and business and life very much applies. And it's with that that we get a chance to be here today to bring forward great inspiration that we're hoping for you. This broadcast is brought to you by Greenlight for Girls. We're an international organization, and we work to bring hands-on fun with science, technology, engineering, and mathematics to people all around the world. And today in our virtual audience, we certainly have people from all around the world. In fact, here today, live with us, we have participants from the UK, from Brazil, India, Poland, the Netherlands, US, Spain, the Philippines, Belgium, Canada, Monte Carlo, and Switzerland, and maybe even more. It's amazing to see all of you today. And first, a special shout out because we have some special team members here, and they are behind the scenes, but they're very much in front of the scenes and everything that we do. And that we have Alex and Marie and Indra, and joining us from different parts of the world, we have Thaisa, Yelena, Alan, Maya, and Andrea. And it's amazing to have everyone today. And we have a special star, and that's our AIG contact, Sarah. And so many more people to introduce you to. In fact, we also have a lot of ambassadors on today. And we're going to ask one of our ambassadors, Kaylin, to share a couple questions she has. But let's hear all about the speakers, because today is about bringing them to you, our role models, and listening to what they have for stories. In fact, we've asked them, well, we will ask them in a moment to share that moment, that spark that inspired them in science, inspired them in discovery, inspired them in their curiosity. Because we know that STEM is linked to everything. So we all have different roles we play in society, but there's an element that gets us started. And that might give us great ideas for the different journeys that we might take ourselves. So with that, I'm going to bring different speakers on today. So the first person I'd like to bring forward is I'd like to introduce you to Tessy De Nassau. Tessy is a former princess of Luxembourg, but she's all about science, which is so much fun to hear from. She's a social entrepreneur, businesswoman, philanthropist, UN AIDS ambassador, public speaker, activist, and mom. And it's bringing all that together, but also she is so enthusiastic and passionate about science, and she's going to share with us all the different things that she's done. And in the breakout room, you'll hear more of her story. So welcome, Tessy.
Hi, Melissa. Hello, everyone. I'm so excited for today.
Next, I'm going to bring up Suzy Awford. So Suzy, welcome today. Suzy is a strategic thinker with over 20 years of experience in government. In fact, she's the head of regulatory and government affairs for AIG in the UK and in Europe. And she manages relationships with many, many different elements of the government. She previously was a partner at a law firm, and she ran their government and media relations practice. And she started her career in the House of Commons. But what's amazing is perhaps how she also started in lobbying in biotech. And she'll share more of her story in just a moment. So welcome, Suzy.
Hi, everyone. I'm delighted to be here.
Next, I'd like to bring Sima Ruparelia. Sima, welcome. Sima is working as a general insurance actuary with over 20 years of experience. And very importantly, she has a few different accolades that I'd love to mention. She was named in the 2020 Insurance Business Global 100, which highlights the very best leaders in the insurance industry. And in 2018 was named an honoree of the Women to Watch EMEA Award, recognizing women leaders doing outstanding work with commercial insurance. Sima, it's wonderful to have you today.
Oh, thank you so much. It's wonderful to be here. I'm really looking forward to speaking to you all. Obviously, I'm a maths graduate, well, not obviously, and obviously that's the best science subject.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Sima. And next I'm going to bring forward Marita Alegre. Now, Marita we've known for a long time. In fact, some of you have been to our Brussels events in the past. She may look very familiar to you because we love to bring her front and center to talk about especially innovation, but especially her role in research and development. And Marita has such a great background. In fact, she's coming to us today from Barcelona, but is often in the UK. And Marita is someone who is a pharmacist. She has a master's in biochemistry, and she has spent her whole career in R&D. And she gets a chance to bring forward so many different ideas and innovation that we can't wait to hear about, and especially ask her in the breakout room about her new laboratory. So welcome, Marita.
Thank you very much, Melissa, and I'm looking so much forward to talk to all of you and share my passion for innovation and improving people's life.
Great, thank you so much. And Simon, please come forward. So Simon is also from the field of insurance, and he has so many diverse interests in that bring him all around the world with a variety of leadership opportunities. And for Simon, what I'd like to do is mention a few things of his background. So he's head of liabilities and motor claims in the UK. He's worked at AIG for 10 years and is currently also acting chief of head of UK claims, which means he gets a chance to take a look at a variety of industries from cars, airplanes, oil rigs, buildings, and most recently, COVID. Simon is father to Oli, Charlie, Amelia, a cat named Lily, and 2 rabbits, Fudge and Flo, which love the names. So welcome, Simon.
Hi, everyone. Really pleased to be here. I don't know if I'm intimidated or excited as the only man on this call, but I think it's equal amounts of both.
Just dive in. We're good. Great. Welcome again, everyone, for being here. It's a pleasure to moderate today. I am the founder of Greenlight for Girls, and also I'm an engineer, an educator, and an entrepreneur. So I can connect to a number of your stories, and I look forward to bringing your stories forward. But first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask for everyone to think back. And when I say back, it might be way far back, or it might be yesterday. To think through of what it was, that one moment that may have inspired you to do what you do today. Perhaps it was something that really grabbed your attention for science, or anything else around being curious about, but learning more. So I'm going to dive into, and I'm just going to start grabbing people out of order, because then that kind of, we're like, okay, let's see who comes next. And I'm going to say Sima. So Sima, could you share with us your story?
Yeah, so I think the first thing that really inspired me was, I am going to go way back from school. There was I'm from Stoke-on-Trent, and there was a competition in school with Michelin tyres, and they were holding the competition for the sort of whole of Staffordshire. And I decided to enter it because I wanted to win a prize more than anything else. It wasn't because of my love of doing work for competitions. And it was a maths competition, and it was all about how it connected to nature. So because it was related to tyres, there was a lot about speed and vehicles and linking all those things together and how you calculate the speed and friction. And for me, that was really interesting as I was putting that together. And then there was a linkage to nature as well, and flowers, and how all of those numbers are related to pi. And I just found that very interesting, and it just made me really grab my attention for maths as a subject that's basically involved in everything you do. You can't have anything without it. And so I just found that really fascinating. And then after that, at university, I did maths, and my love of it carried on, but particularly in the robotics area, which is obviously getting bigger now. But at university, it was still a fairly new field. It's just an amazing field, and I think that's just going to take off in the future.
Thank you for sharing that, and especially with the connection to mathematics. I think all of us, we can't do enough to encourage people around us, because it does tend to be one of those subjects that you hear sometimes not positive things about, right?
You either love it or hate it, apparently, but I think you can just like it.
Right, but we also know that because it is connected to what we do, there's so many different avenues that you can take, and it's fun also to see where it is. And you mentioned nature, and of course that's also what inspired us to put the daisy as our logo, because that's connected. It's the reason why is mathematics. It's nice that it's a beautiful flower, but it's actually there because of math. So thank you. That's great. Suzy, could you share with us what's that story that comes to mind?
Thanks very much. My example is, it's probably about 20 years ago, 15 years ago in my career, and I was just mentioning it in the kind of discussion with the other speakers. So my job is to connect business with regulators and government, and to make sure that both sides understand each other. And at the time, I was working for a law firm and advocating for the biotechnology industry. And the biotech industry, they kind of represent the smaller pharmaceutical industry, so they were in kind of forefront of a lot of innovative treatments of various diseases. And I was involved lobbying for them. This was probably in the early 2000s, around reform of the, it's called the Human Fertilization Embryology Act, but essentially it changed we were seeking to change the reasons under which you could experiment on human embryos, which is obviously incredibly controversial, sensitive issue. But the reason the biotech industry was advocating for this change to the Act was to help develop treatments for therapeutic, for Parkinson's, for Alzheimer's, for leukemia, diabetes, a whole range of different diseases. And because it was such a highly ethical issue, usually at the House, it required a vote in both of the Houses of Parliament. And usually MPs are pretty much told how to vote. So if you kind of persuade government, you can be successful. But this was, because it was an ethical issue, was a free vote. So everyone in the House of Commons had a vote, everyone in the House of Lords had a vote. So we had to do a lobbying campaign across both Houses of Parliament to really try and educate and explain why this was going to make such a big difference, that it would justify what was, ultimately a really sensitive, understandably sensitive area. And we were successful in that. So there was a lot of it. So it does come back to resilience, because understandably there were other arguments put up as to why this was, a slippery slope, but this is a sort of a dangerous precedent. And we were able to persuade those, enough people in both those Houses of Parliament to be successful. But having those sort of discussions with people with completely different views and perspectives is obviously really challenging. But it still inspires me, and I'm still proud of the fact that I was involved in making that change, because that was sort of 10, 15 years ago now, and those treatments have started to emerge that make a difference to people's lives.
It's amazing to be able to look back and say I was part of something, and then to see where it goes. Thank you for sharing that. Marita, tell us, what's that moment that inspired you to do what you do now?
Thank you. So I've been always very attracted and inspired by how things work in nature. And also with thinking about how can I help people live better. There were these two things in my mind. And I happened my father happened to be a doctor, and at that time he has his private, consultancy at home. So I was seeing all these patients coming home, and they were getting these new treatments, and they were all coming very happy. And I was thinking, oh, that's great. But once in a while, there was someone who was going for the treatment and wasn't happy. And I was like thinking, why is this happening? Why drugs do not help everybody? And that made me think, oh, maybe I want to understand more how drugs work. And how can I help people to live better? So I started pharmacy, And from there, I started to work on innovation and innovation on products. And that I've been more than 30 years working on making better products that help people live better. And that's how all started.
Oh, that's great. I remember when we had you as a speaker in Brussels. I think you were telling about ways that you got a chance to research and work with people to test things out, so that you really made sure that what you were doing was helping someone, which everybody loved to hear. Thank you. All right, Simon, tell us, moment.
Hi everybody. Well, I'm going to go back way back as well. So I'm 51, so I'm going to go back to my school years, and I want you to picture a very old-fashioned grammar school, which, for those of you from the international community, think of Harry Potter. And think of how they were all dressed and how they were taught. That was my environment, and for that type of environment, I'm not a good match. I'm slightly rebellious, and always have been. I don't really like that traditional learning style, so me and the grammar school didn't get on very well. And on my last day in my 5th year, my year head pulled me to one side, and he muttered these immortal words. He said, "You, Gallimore, will make nothing of your life." And that made me really cross. I don't get cross very easily, but it made me really cross. But actually it became a driving force for me. And although I've not really specialised as most of my colleagues on the panel have, what it did do for me was really put something underneath me. It lit a spark or a fire. And that was, I've always tried to prove myself to be always pushing for that next thing. But along the way, what it's taught me as well is that my job really is to facilitate people. So although I'm the head of claims right now and I lead a big claims unit on a day-to-day basis, I always think of my role is to create an atmosphere for people to thrive and to prosper. And I'm surrounded by people who are much smarter than I will ever be. And I think back to that day when that teacher, I can still picture the chap who said it to me. And if ever I'm feeling like I'm just getting a bit frustrated, I just think back to that chap's face and I think, right, okay, here I go again. So for me, it's as this is about resilience, it's that ability to just keep going, and eventually you do finally find some success, however you want to measure that. But that's the one bit that really inspired me to move forward and take myself a bit more seriously as well, I think.
I love that example, and it does go so well with the overall topic for today. It's that ability to succeed in an environment that is challenged, to be able to say, hey, you know what? Oh, that I don't believe that, and I'm going to do it anyway. And that is quite a spark to have. So I can easily see looking back to that and keeping that going, which is
absolutely
amazing. Thank you for that.
Although I do wish he was a wizard.
Well, Sima, you don't know what to do outside of work, do you?
Oh, we'll catch up on that later.
All right, great. I'd love to hear from Tessy. Please tell us that one moment that just sparked in a lot of different directions that your life has taken, but I know especially science has been a part of it. So I'd love to hear.
Yeah, well, amazing examples already from my fellow panelists. Needed to laugh about some wizard and all. Yeah, definitely. Well, as they say, life happens while you make plans. So as I told before to my fellow panelists, I was popping in and popping out of STEM my whole life, really. I started getting interested in STEM when I decided on what degree I want to study in. So I said, now we have STEAM, but as we're talking about STEM today, I will focus on that specifically. And I remember it really well. I was talking to my ex-brother-in-law, Guillaume, and I was telling him, what should I study? And I think it's so important to really look towards your family and your friends and also ask them, what do you think I'm good at? Because I wanted to study art and communication. And my ex-brother-in-law, he said, no, I totally see you in politics. So that's how the path went with international relations. And all of a sudden, I still, as a child, I wanted to be a veterinarian. I had animals from all over the place. My neighbors, even in school, they would bring the doves that flew against the windows and had like crooked beaks. And I would do mouth to mouth to them. So I was always very much into the science already as a child, but as a vet. And then life just happened, as I'm sure a lot of girls listening to this and boys will know that as well. But then life has something funny. It always brings you kind of back to where you need to be. No path is fixed. You evolve, so does your environment you live in. and operate, right? So then all of a sudden I was like, how can I combine policy and politics with my love of science? And I decided to write my thesis, and I remember I needed to change my advisors quite a few times on biological terrorism, because everyone was like, what is that? And I said, well, it's politics, but it's also science. And I did an internship with the Luxembourg Institute of Health, and that really got it started. Of course, in the military, I was a nurse. That's how I met my ex-husband. So it was really always in and out. And what really then came to be was that even if the people are listening saying, I can't see blood, or I'm not good at math, you can do STEM through politics, through policy writing, through strategy. All kinds of other things are needed as much as the math in it, as the aspects in the lab. And so, long story short, which later I will tell you more in my breakout session in detail, I end up now doing a medical doctorate in integrative medicine, because I said, I am not a blood type. I can't see blood properly, but alternative medicine like acupuncture and everything that is with homeopathy and stuff like that, they don't really have blood, but you can really make a difference, because a lot of people are looking for alternatives to chemicals and everything else that we put in our bodies, specifically nowadays looking at climate change and all of these other things. So that is literally, in a long story, very short, how I get to where I am today. But do not be afraid if the path you really dream of doesn't happen straight away, because if it's meant to be, your path will always catch you back at the moment where you expect it to last and get you where you need to be.
Oh, I love that sentiment. Thank you for that. And also just to hear how science has been either in your direct path or right on the edge, and you've kind of always kind of weaved through that and brought it together, because as you said, it's in everything that we do. And that is also aligned to what everyone has brought forward for their stories. Thank you for starting off with this, because sharing that moment that inspired us is always great for us to reflect on as individuals of like, how did I get here? What did I love and what do I still love? But also it starts to build ideas for those that are looking to what is the future going to bring. With that, it's time to go into our breakout rooms, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to have some questions for you. So for all of our participants, in a moment, the team is going to put up a sign that's going to give you a room to go into. And all you have to do is click on it when I say go. But with these rooms, it's kind of like transporting to another world. In fact, there are a lot of different places that everyone is around the world here, so you can certainly go to it. So in a moment, I'd like you to just take a breath and get your travel gear ready and get a chance to hear everyone's story, and go ahead and click and jump in.
So I'm going to share a bit the pictures from where I work, the laboratory, and the place where I work. So I will first start with showing the entrance of our place, and it's called Discovery House. And I wanted to put this picture because that's where, if you want, magic happens. So what do we have in Discovery House? First thing is we have what we call a consumer lounge, and it's like a living room where we invite people to come and share with us their experience. And it's all about getting to know people with different backgrounds, with different needs, all type of diversity that you can think of, because we want to develop and bring to market products for everybody. So once you understand, and normally you tackle topics, no? You can say, okay, I'm going to look for toothpaste. And so you start asking, okay, I'm going to ask young people or older people, depending, or maybe, I don't know, people that has some gum problem. It depends on the target consumer. You ask them to come, and you have a protocol of questions. Once you understand what their needs is, we group with the team and we say, okay, what is the product that we need to do? And then it's when we go to the laboratory. And this is my team, and this is the team who is developing the new products. Sometimes they have been with the consumer, so they have understood their needs, and they can start bringing together some of the particular chemical products and say, well, if they want to have something for gum relief, maybe what I need to do is to put a bit more baking soda. And they start formulating. Once we formulate, we bring together other elements, and here is another part of my team, and this one here is a designer, this one here is evaluating the production needs, and then we bring together all the different elements. How does the package needs to be? How do we design it so the consumer is easy for them, easy to use? We also talk with perfume houses or flavor houses in that case, and then we bring all the different elements together, and then once we are ready, we go back to consumers, we give the product and say, does this product deliver on what you needed? And then if the answer is yes, we start producing it and then we launch. So that's basically the world of innovation in which I'm immersed. And I just wanted to share that as a background. Happy to answer any question.
I have a question. So when you develop something, how do you evaluate whether it is worth developing in the first place? How do you evaluate the demands? You know, how do you know spending so much time and energy and money in the product is worth it or is not going to be worth it?
Yeah, it's an excellent question. So the first thing we do is when we detect through the questions that there is a new idea, we call it insight. No, we have a new insight. What we do is we put that on paper. We don't make product. Perhaps we do some virtual prototypes so that we can show it. No, we say, for instance, I mean, especially in the world of hygiene and cosmetics. No, but we have, let's assume, going to the same case that we know that gum is a big problem, and so we put a concept, we call it concept, and we say, now we have developed this product that after maybe a week of usage, you will see that your gums go back to your normal, they do not get swallowed, to normal shape, normal color, you feel relief, etc. And then once we have it on paper, we send it to a group of consumers who will tell us, yes, I like it or not. And if we see that a majority of people like it, then we say it's worth it to do all the development work. But if they don't like the concept, then maybe the insight wasn't good enough.
Okay, thank you.
I actually have a question as well. So I'm on my last year of school and I'm applying for biochemistry at university. And I wanted to ask if you had any advice about the course, about anything like that.
My advice is use the time you are in university to learn as much as possible. It's a wonderful time to really absorb the possibilities. The world is full of possibilities, and having a very strong scientific background will allow you to choose whether you want to work in areas like, I don't know, medical devices, or you want to work on research that is more, if you want, more upstream type of research, or social type of work in hospitals, and there is so many possibilities. But there is one thing that you will only get at university, which is really in-depth learnings and skills that will equip you for the rest of your life. So take that time and get focused on your learning and your studies.
Thank you.
I have a question. Marita, if you could do anything differently, if you were starting over, let's say, around the time of university, is there anything that you would do differently? Any other experiences you might try to get while you were young?
Well, in a way, thanks for this question. You know, the advice I gave Angelina is a bit the advice I would do differently. because when I was at university, I was doing a lot of things. I was playing basketball. I was working with like a group of children during the weekends. I was doing some work to get a bit of pocket money. I was doing so many things. And what happens is that by doing so many things, I didn't go as deep as I think I should have gone on my studies. And if I look backwards, I say, well, you know what, this pocket money, yes, it was nice to have it, but it really didn't make a difference. But going deep and getting more learnings and working harder at university, that would have, I think it would have had a bigger impact. I did have good grades, but I could have had even better grades. And that's what I think, if I would start again, I really would spend more time on excelling in my university studies.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I've got a question.
Mm-hmm.
Generally, what advice would you give someone going into medical science and everything?
My advice is you need to be, it has to be a vocational. It's very hard work, and it's most likely you will not have a perfect schedule in your life because it's hard work and you will have to adapt to whatever the need is. So you need to have that vocation of what you are going to do is really what matters you. So you are working hard without pain.
Thank you all for joining the room. So I'm going to dive straight in and tell you a bit about how I got to where I am. I am from Stoke-on-Trent. I think I mentioned that earlier. I was born in the UK, but my parents are from Uganda. I was actually one of the very few Asian students in my school and in my background. And I spent a lot of time obviously at school, like we all do, and I really, as I said, enjoyed maths. So I spent my school time really focusing on the maths and the sciences. Not that I didn't like anything else, I did. I really liked English in every subject, but you know, maths really caught my eye. I come from a background of scientists, so my sister's a physicist and my other sister's a doctor, so they wouldn't say maths is the best subject, but obviously for me it is. So they kind of ran in our family as well, but growing up as an Indian girl in Stoke-on-Trent with not many other Asians was actually very hard, because we were the only two in the school, me and my sister. My other sister's a lot older. And there was a lot of racism and a lot of bigotry. You know, you didn't get the same opportunities, you weren't really given the same chances, and separately to that, you know, there was a lot of shouting and bullying as you walked home from school, bricks thrown at our windows. So there was a lot of resilience, I guess, needed to survive in that sort of environment and know that you could still achieve things. As part of that, my father also died when I was a little girl, and in Asian families, I don't know how many of you know, but in Asian families, a lot of them, many of them, can be very male orientated. So I grew up in a background where I was told, similar to Simon in some ways, where girls couldn't achieve anything. Why did you have all girls? All of that sort of methodology because my mum only had girls. All of that sort of information coming at us all the time. And like Simon, that just made me want to prove myself more, because girls can do anything. And my mum used to want all boys, because again, Indian mothers, boys are the ones that they wanted in that day and age. And now, you know, so many years on, she's like, thank God I had 3 girls. They look after me. They're the ones that have achieved success. They're the one, you know, look at all these boys. And there's nothing wrong with boys, but, you know, and boys are great. But I really want you to take away that girls can do anything. And all it takes is some hard work and some focus. Not that you shouldn't enjoy yourselves as well, but just trying to keep some focus on those things. I decided to do maths at university, and not everyone wants to go to university, and not everyone needs to, but it's a great experience, and doing maths was fantastic because, again, there was so much to learn from it, and it just opened up so many doors. So when you're thinking about what you might want to study or where you want to go, think about not narrowing your field so much that you can't, you're so special, like you can't pick and choose and drop something later and choose to do something else. So if I had not wanted to carry on with maths in my job, I could have done basically any other job and it would have been still okay, other than like medicine or something. And that's one of the reasons why I chose it. And since then, I've really moved forward with, you know, having different jobs, just trying to work myself up the ladder in a very male-dominated society, but still managed to do it. So that's something I'm really keen on. And I run a team now in AIG of over 90 people that report into me. I manage quite a large premium volume of business, like $10 billion. And I'm on the executive committee, and I'm one of the few women. So, as I said, girls can do anything. They can get there. They just got to not let the knockbacks, and they will happen as you go through your career, get you down. I do have some photos to share with you, which I will do, and then I want to make sure I give you some time for some questions. So I'm going to share my screen. I even included some baby photos to show you that I didn't come from exactly the most luxurious background in the world. We've got our bunk bed sitting there on the right. And this is me and my sister. I'm sure she was pinching me. And but then this is me and my team. So this is me presenting to my team in London. When we were talking about different things, getting the whole team together. And I also spend a lot of time doing talks. So I did a talk at the Insider Progress, again, about helping women in the workplace and trying to help, you know, build up, trying to get more women at higher senior levels. I actually sponsor a student at Loughborough University who can't afford to pay all of their fees in a STEM subject, so specifically in a STEM subject. Loughborough is where I went to university, and I also won this 2018 Women to Watch Award, which I was really proud of, and now I'm on the board of that. There's a charity that goes with that, and I joined the board, and that charity works to support cervical cancer tests in developing nations, where they also have issues around why would a woman want a cervical cancer smear test and things like that. Is it because they've been having, like, they have a very poor education program around sex education and that, so it brings a stigma with it. So with that, please ask me any questions. I should have said ask as you go along.
Hi, I have a question. So obviously you've faced a great deal of adversity and challenges to get to where you are at this point. Like you were saying, from racism to sexism to your loss and everything in between. But I was wondering, like, to find that resilience, did you have any coping mechanisms or support systems that you found to be the most helpful, or was it more of like an internal battle for you?
No, I did have coping mechanisms. You know, my family are very good close coping mechanism, and I know not everyone has those things. I was lucky in that respect, but I didn't have my friends very much because, again, there was that difficulty making friends in that closed society. So I relied on my family. But relying on your friends, I think, is really important, and people around you, and letting yourself but you're going to be, if you have something going wrong, you're going to be upset in the time, but let yourself be upset, and then, but realize, like, always trying to put perspective on things, that nothing is the end of the world, and you can always kind of pick yourself back up. And there's lots of techniques you can use around that. You know, largely not thinking black and white about everything. If something goes wrong, well, then everything's always going to go wrong for me forever. And just trying to use those techniques to stop me thinking like that, I think is quite powerful.
Okay, we're ready. We're back. So I hope the travel was good and that you learned so much. I'm sure you did, diving into everybody's stories and being able to ask some questions. I'm going to actually open it up and ask you all a question to see what kind of things that you were asked in the room. But before I do, I'm going to bring forward an ambassador. So G4G has ambassadors all around the world, and they are science advocates. And they love to be able to inspire others as well at any age. In fact, what I'd like to bring forward is our special ambassador for today, Kaylin, who's in the UK. And the way that she describes herself is just your average 16-year-old that ends up down the Wikipedia rabbit holes after looking up information for my science homework. So this is great. Thank you, Kaylin, for being here today. Please feel free to pose your question. And if you have it to someone in particular, please do, or open it up to the group.
Hi, it's been great to hear all of your stories. Like, it's incredible to see all your journeys. So I have a couple of questions. My first question was to all of you. What was some of your career highlights, and what do you think was a key skill that helped you achieve those highlights?
Great question. We'll start there and we'll do a quick round. Simon, skills related to a highlight in your career. What advice would you have for everyone?
What a tough question. The highlights in my career, I guess it sounds a bit cliche this, but the best days I ever have in work, the days which I enjoy most, are those when I see somebody who's been working with me or for me achieve their goal. And when they get promoted and I've had a part in that journey, that is by far the most satisfying day I ever had in the office ever. Other than that, and perhaps a bit more vainglorious one, when I first joined AIG, we had never won an industry award for an innovation. And in my first 2 years, we launched something in my casualty team, which won us the first award that AIG had won for innovation. And that was a personal level. And for AIG, that was a really good night, very good night indeed, and a good day. And I still have it, still have the trophy behind my desk today.
Wow. Thank you. Tessy, what would you say? Highlight and your skills.
So for me, well, highlight is always really when I meet amazing people like you guys. When I met you, Melissa, for example, and others, it's just continuous because we're always growing with every single person we meet. And so what I would tell each and everyone here listening is do not be afraid of networking, because it's so important to just connect to others and find a mentor. I think for me, that was such an amazing moment, and my mentors change as I evolve, but it's just about, find that one person that really gets you to that next step until it doesn't work anymore, then get another mentor. There's no problem. But it's so important that for me, that really always created my highlights, because these people, they don't take a leave in front of their mouth. They just say, Tessy, this doesn't work. Or Tessy, just do that. Or what was that? Or this is great. It's just people who are so honest with you, and they have that little separation between you and your friends and family, for example, or your business partners. Get a mentor and network as much as you can. Go out and meet people. It's the best thing.
Ah, love it. Great. Thank you so much, Tessy. Sima, what would you say?
For me, getting that Women to Watch award was really one of my proudest moments. It really helped to, I guess, make me feel recognized, which, everyone needs from time to time. So that was just something I was very proud of. But linked to that, I wouldn't have got that award without having good colleagues and people at work and people who support me. And I think that comes back to what Tessy was just saying about networking. And and spending time with people. And I think it's just really important. I really like spending time with people at work, as well as obviously in my social life, and being there for people when they need it.
Great, thank you. And Marita?
So for me, the career highlight is when I've developed and brought to market a product that people then comes and says, I can't live without that product. It really make a change in my life. And that, what I've internalized is that what that means is that for me, I was very clear on my purpose. Why is it that I want to work on this? The purpose for the work I do every day, the purpose on which I want to innovate. And for me, the purpose that I have, and everybody has one different, but mine is improving people's life. So whenever I do innovation, it's linked to my own purpose. And that really keeps me up and sometimes you fail, but it keeps me standing up and going and perseverate into getting something better. Innovation sometimes fails. It's never always like a perfect solution, but it's having that purpose, clarity on the purpose of what you want in life and in your work is what really helped me.
Great, thank you so much. I love that connection too, and I think that's something that we're all looking for, is what is our purpose, and that might change over time, but it's something that becomes then that connection that we can do for whatever it is that we choose for a career. Thank you. And Suzy, what would you say? Highlight skills that got you there.
Thanks. I mean, really, really great answers. I feel like saying yes, those ditto. But I think, I mean, for me, I when I was made partner at DLA Piper, an international law firm, I was very proud. And I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer. So they recognised I was the first person, myself and a colleague, were the first non-lawyers that they'd made partners in the UK at the time. And the sort of message I guess I take from that is, and it was obviously relating to the fact that I was skilled in what I was doing and I was running a successful practice within that law firm. But I guess the message I take is it's not just about your technical skills. For start my career, I was so focused on being technically good at my job. And I guess as I've got older, or more experienced, I just recognise, back to what people were saying earlier about networking and relationships. It's not just about being good at your job, not just about knowing your data or being an expert in an area. It's about how you build that trust with those people and you build out your network so that they know that they can come to you as a resource, and you can be that person that can help them.
Great, thank you, Suzy.
Melissa, can I just add something?
Absolutely.
That's okay. Yeah, just one thing that strikes me about listening to all of my fellow panelists is, and it's something I think is some great advice I got a long time ago, which is always be authentic, be who you are, and don't try and be somebody for an occasion or something different, because people will see through it and it becomes very transparent. And to Suzy's last point there about building trust, if you're not authentic, it's very difficult to build trust with people for a sustainable amount of time. So always stick to who you are and be who you are.
Great. I love all of the advice that you're giving. Such a great words for people to take to heart. I'm going to pass this on to Kaylin for her second question. And with everyone who's asking questions, which is great, I know that there's some answers coming your way too in writing. Thank you, Tessy. And anyone else who does that too. So we're going to try to answer everything we can. But there's just so much great content that we need to get through. So Kaylin, ask your second question and let us know what you have.
Yeah, my second question is quite similar to the question Jess just answered on the group chat. It was, what was one of the most difficult challenges you had to overcome in your career? And what motivated you to overcome that when you saw kind of the mountain that you had to climb?
Great. Is there anything that comes to mind? If so, you can just unmute. So I see Marita. Marita, go for it. Is there anything that comes to mind for challenges that you had?
Yeah, there have been challenges, and sometimes you you in the 11th hour you realize that there is a major concern on, I don't know, stability of your product, and that's a problem, because you have a whole organization waiting for you to come out with this innovation, and then my advice here is, it is important to have backup plans. So is the key plan very challenging and trying to go to the best you can, but a backup plan that in case something goes wrong, you at least can deliver something that was expected.
Great question. And great question, Kaylin. I'm gonna see if anyone else has anything to add, because it's very much in line with what we're having on the chat as well, and linked to the overall topic at hand about resilience. Is there anyone else that something comes to mind? Simon, please.
Yeah. Self-doubt, we all have it, and sometimes it can paralyze you. One of the things that I've learned to overcome it is that in those moments of that despair, and I remember having one moment when I was working for Tesco Bank in Edinburgh, and my boss was really ambiguous in everything she wanted me to do. It was very difficult to get that clarity of what she wanted me to produce for her. I remember sitting in the office one day and I just didn't know what to do. The first time in my life I've never known what to do. And I took myself out for a walk, came back, and I just went and sat by her and decided I was just going to be honest and just spell it out. I said, I don't understand what you want. Thinking that could be a career suicide moment. And actually it was probably a revelationary moment, because she sat down and said, okay, let me explain it to you clearly. Have you got it? And from that point on, we had a new kind of common understanding. And it's that ability to not be afraid to ask the obvious question to get the clarity that you need to move forward. Because if one of the things that gets in the way of common sense at times is what people may perceive of you if you don't walk away thinking, okay, I'm going to go and do that, when actually you don't really know what you're going to do. So never, ever be afraid to just check, double check and triple check if you need to. It doesn't make you look stupid, it makes you look really sensible because you're asking the right questions.
Right. Great advice. Tessy, what do you have?
Yeah, I think, well, these are all amazing answers. Maybe something a bit more practical then, because I know there's also some more younger listeners in here. And something I do with my sons, and something I also do that I personally do every day, is that, so one thing is, I put Post-it notes on my mirror in the bathroom, so that the first thing in the morning that I see, which you consciously will read when you look at it, is something positive. And whatever I want to achieve, I have a project that comes up, there will be Post-its about the project that I need to know, something I need to look up on. But there will also be things about, you can do it. You're wonderful, to just tame your demon, because your thoughts are often produced by memories, and it's a constant loop, isn't it? But these loops, you can change these loops because you have created them for yourself, right? So I constantly had moments where I just literally fell like the lowest I could be. And when you reach that point where you just think, I think I can't go lower, I think the only thing that gets you out of it is just, as we heard from Simon, to really believe in yourself and really say, where I am now, this is where I want to go, and what do I need to get there? So really be honest about it, and not be afraid to ask. So what, for example, for me to work with the UN, what I did, I just called them to work with different other people, or to meet amazing people for my Zoom o'clocks, for example, that I'm doing. How did I get Julian Hugh in the US, or Cherry Blair? Well, I just wrote them. And, people are always like, I can't. Yes, you can. It's just a step out of your comfort zone. Whatever it is for you that scares you, do it, because it will transform you forever, and it will catapult you somewhere magical. But yes, the practical thing to really play with your demons for me is the mirror thing, and it has worked miracles, because I do it every day and my kids do too, and it really makes a difference. Such a small thing with such a great effect.
Yeah, I love the practicality of that, and the fact that we all need positive messages, and especially reminded to ourselves. It's fantastic. Thank you all for this. In fact, it's time for the second breakout room. Thank you, Kaylin, for joining us and asking these great questions. And they were mirroring some of the questions that were online too, which is perfect. So with this, the questions that you haven't had answered yet, bring into your breakout room. Maybe you'll get a chance to ask it then, or hear the answer already in the story. And our speakers are going to get a chance, you're going to get a chance to meet a second speaker now. So someone you haven't seen already or heard from. So get it ready to travel. You'll see something coming up onto your screen. And when you see it, get your backpack ready and dive in and jump. Time to travel.
Before, when I was in my previous breakout room, I was talking a little bit about my career and how I kind of link politics and biotech, but I was really inspired by what some of the comments that were being made by my fellow panelists just now about kind of overcoming low points in your career or your life, or how to celebrate the high points. And I really completely, 2 points that Simon made, one about being your authentic self, and the second about asking questions. They just really, really resonated with me. Because I don't think, you know, certainly kind of, again, earlier in my career, and that's kind of the point that I was trying to make, was you think that it's all about your skills in your technical area, but actually people at work, people in life, they don't just build it, you know, buy into whether you technically know your area or you can get the maths question right. They buy into a much bigger package, which is about you and your kind of your whole self. And one of the things that AIG I think has done really, really well is, you know, we've had a campaign about bringing your whole self to work, and it's essentially about encouraging people to be their authentic selves. And the second point about asking questions, completely agree with that. And sometimes, you know, I basically built, Sarah will know this, there is not an AIG event that goes by where I don't ask a question, because it's just, it's quite a good way to raise your profile in a big, you know, big event to ask a question. And B, you know, if you've got access to these people, why wouldn't you take the opportunity to see what they can learn and to share? And also for me, when I joined the insurance industry, I hadn't been specializing in insurance. I had done all sorts, you know, like I was saying earlier, I'd done biotech, I've been doing, you know, environment, climate change, all sorts of different issues. So for most of the first kind of, when I joined the insurance industry full time in 2010, for most of the first few months, I had absolutely no idea what anyone was talking about. I literally didn't have a clue. There was so much jargon associated with it. And I thought, I can either pretend that I know what they're talking about and Google it later, or I probably have a brief window at the beginning of my time here where I can ask the questions that might be the stupid questions. And I embraced the opportunity to ask the stupid questions. So I would encourage you to do the same. I still ask them today, 10 years into the insurance industry. So does anyone have any questions, any themes that they particularly want to cover during this discussion?
All right, I don't see many questions in the chat yet. I'm going to ask one, and maybe if anyone has a question, please don't hesitate to write it down. I do have one, because we were talking a bit about mentor and the importance of having these kind of people in your life to help you. Was it relevant for you? Did you have someone in your career, in your studies, who pushed you and you said, yes, you can do it? Or who will you look up to, basically?
Yeah, definitely. So I had, at my school, there were two teachers that were very influential for me. One of them was my biology teacher, and the other one was my English teacher. And both of them, that I still find myself inadvertently quoting them now to my children, much to their disgust and horror, because they, you know, especially just to, you know, thinking about, like, with the biology, it was about, for some reason, when I would do the experiments, they would work when they didn't always work for all the students in the class, and the biology teacher, she was just really, really great at building up confidence in an area where I felt underconfident in. I've always thought of myself as more English, art, history, pretty underconfident in maths and STEM subjects, which is not an uncommon story. And so I, really appreciated the fact that she had, built up my confidence in an area where, a great teacher just makes all the difference at the right time. And then my second example is one of my old bosses, who is when I worked at DLA, and he is a real kind of larger than life character, so like a massively extreme extrovert. He's in the House of Lords. He's a Liberal Democrat peer, and he just didn't have the embarrassment gene. Like all of us, especially if you're British, you have this just perpetual terror of being embarrassed and getting something wrong, or being on display and saying something stupid. It kind of must be genetic in the British people. And he just didn't have that. He just didn't have that. He would say stupid things all the time, and people would just nod. And and he would make me do things that I really didn't want to do. Like, he put me forward to speak in front of 150 people when I was, whatever it was, the time I was working 25. And I was like, oh, I really don't want to do this. But because there's never any doubt in his mind that I could do it. I just like, and as one of the points I was making in the previous breakout about, it's sort of linked to Simon's point about self-doubt. Everyone has self-doubt, and when I finished university, it takes a while to build up that confidence in the path that you've chosen, and your ability to meaningfully contribute to work discussion when you've only been in work for 10 minutes. And one of the things that I say to my daughter is just give it a go, fake it. I know that sounds like terrible advice, but fake it, pretend that you're confident, and after a while it just happens. You've faked it so often, you've talked about stuff that you're uncomfortable about so often that it's not fake anymore. You have to put yourself out there. So I channel this guy who just never doubted himself. Never doubted himself, and he was my mentor. So I worked for him when I was late 26, and I ended up the managing director of this government relations practice. But again, because he was like, well, you're going to be, I was like, at the time I was pregnant with my first child, and he was like, well, you're going to be managing director now, because the previous managing director left. And I was like, okay, sure, I'm pregnant, right? And he was absolutely fine with it. So just finding that mentor is incredibly, incredibly important. And even if it's somebody that you can just talk to that doesn't have they're not going to have all the solutions. Then they're not, but they're going to have a bit of experience that they can share with you, that will hopefully build up your confidence, give you an alternative perspective, and help you with your next step or the next few steps.
So in the next 4 minutes, I will talk to you a bit about my life, and I prepared some pictures for you to kind of catapult you a little bit through my life very fast. So here we are. I hope you can see all of that. So this is how it all started for me in my professional career. I have been in the military, joined the military really, really young, and realized at a very early age that STEM is everywhere. And so it was as well in the military. I learned that STEM has been present in the military through my shooting training. So I know how to shoot Steyr-Aug, a German gun, and my infantry skills. I learned that STEM is as well geography, which I am not the best in. So even though you're not the best in everything, so am I. Don't be afraid of it. As a lot of people always tell me, Tessy, your STEM skills with geography is not the greatest. So as we heard before from, from Sumi, who loves math, not everyone loves math, including me. And so how can you find your STEM where you can make a difference? Something I did already say at Greenlight for Girls in Luxembourg event is that a good test for you to see what is STEM, in case you haven't realized yet how far-fetched STEM can be, is to just look into your backpack. Everything you have, from your credit card, to your lipstick, to your phone, to your pen, to your paper, to your backpack in its such, the color of your backpack, everything you can imagine, everything you see in front of you, everything you can touch, everything you can smell is STEM. Isn't that incredible? So whatever it is that inspires you, just go for it. So we have the military, and in the military I realized that through my nursing career that maybe blood is not for me. I was a nurse there and I was doing blood tests, and as I became pregnant I realized that blood is surely not my favorite thing. So I moved over to what can STEM be else, but also in the medical space, because that is something I am passionate about. I always wanted to be in the medical space, but as I can't see blood, I was really looking for ways. And what I came up with was studies in politics, as you heard before, working in a lab, writing my thesis on biological terrorism. And that as it all started. I was just like, STEM is also politics, is also policy. You are wanted and needed in our political arenas, because not everyone can do the scientific job hands-on with blood, right? So here you can see me here as well in the military. There was 18 years old, having a whole bullets of guns that I just confiscated from a family in the mountain in ex-Yugoslavia. I was deployed as the only woman of my draft, which often as well STEM is too. There's not enough women in STEM. And just in the UK wants to hire, I have a little statistic for you here, 1 million women in STEM by the end of this year. Isn't that incredible? But they're lacking it because only 200,000 are in STEM education at the moment. So we need all of you to help us with that. Then moving on, what is really important and what was important in my life is always to ask questions and keep moving forward. People will tell you you can't do that, and that's okay, because that is their fears, that is their boundaries. But never let their fears mirror on you. You are yourself and your path is unique to you. So what I have done when people said you can't do it, I tried it even harder. So what happened is that I ended up working in labs. I ended up working with the military. I ended up creating my companies. I ended up creating Professors Without Borders, which is an educational charity, which also works with, for example, midwives and with pharmaceutical companies. What is, it is just really important that no matter what you are interested in, that you just do it. You will always find people. Professors Without Borders is a great example where no one of us is paid. And yet we have grown in the last 4 years to work in 8 countries with 37 people working for us. We have amazing teachers. We have amazing connections with governments from around the world. How did we achieve it? By just going and asking people to help us. So that means on LinkedIn, get a LinkedIn profile if you don't have it yet. People underestimate the power of LinkedIn. It is very powerful and it's really, really needed. So get your LinkedIn, get it up and running, and just network the heck out of yourself. Like, it is really amazing. Don't be scared. From there on, miracles will happen. What is also important, never, ever, ever forget your past. Your private life will affect your professional life. Wherever you're from, what did you see in your private life which can help your community? Because your community is unique to you. My life, where I'm from, has nothing to do with you. So don't try to be someone else. Don't try to just say, oh, I'm going to go and study in the UK or wherever it is, just because I have more opportunities there. It's not true. It's a myth. Now we have education inflation, and everyone wants to study at these Ivy Leagues, and look what happened now. Corona happened, and all of these Ivy Leagues are online as well. There's amazing resources online that I myself work as well. My PhD, I'm doing it all online. And there's things like Coursera I have taken, which is often for free, with Boston University, Harvard, LSE, Cambridge. There's so many different things you can use as resources that I have done as well. But the most biggest asset you have, which no one can buy from you or take away from you, is your past. What have you learned in your life that can make a difference for the future? Or what have you seen is needed in your communities that you need to professionalize and become better in order to help your friends and your communities and the young people in your society to be having a better future than you had? So never underestimate the power of your past. Then I need to leave you with a little activity, as I could see. So what I want you to do is, firstly, create a list on where do you want to be in 2 years' time, and what do you need to do to get there. Be really frank with yourself and really just be creative. Don't think, oh no, I can't do that. No, just write it all down. Just blur it all out. And then do your research and see, how do I get there, or how do I get the closest to it? Find a mentor if you don't have one yet, because I have done that as well. And reach out to people. If you want to reach out to me as well, I happily give you some advice as well, if that is of help. Then, what I said already before, for the next 30 days, I want you, with that plan of the next 2 years, to meet one person a day, or write one person a day, no matter what it is. Is it a mentor? Is it someone that inspires you? Is it a journalist? Is it someone in government? Is it someone in your family? Is it someone who works for your local government? Is it someone in the bakery? Whatever it is, one person a day for 30 days, and take notes on it. And you would see how your life will change forever. And I want to hear your stories, because I think that exercise is the coolest, and I have done it myself, and you will love it. Just do it. I know some of you are scared, but you can do it. It's really fantastic.
Okay, so I'm going to show you where of the kind of places I get to go with my job. And as I'm showing them, I'll talk a little bit, okay? So bear with me. Okay, so this is the view from my office in London. So I live and work in Manchester, but I spend 3 days a week in London when we're not in lockdown. And this is the view from my office for the last 19 weeks, which is the back of my house. So my job lets me go all over the world. And as the head of claims, my job is to put things right when things go wrong. So if an airplane crashes, my aviation team will go and take care of that. If we have people who'd crash their cars, then my casualty team will take care of that. And when you buy an insurance policy, you're buying protection for when something goes wrong, and that's called a claim, and that's what my team deal with. Like I say, it takes me all over the world. This is Bulgaria in Sofia. This is where we have an international team. So I have a big unit out here in Bulgaria who manage motor claims for me. This is a place called Vilnius in Lithuania. If you've ever been to Lithuania, you've probably been to Vilnius. If you've not been, you should absolutely go. This for me is the most beautiful European capital of them all. It's very undiscovered. It gets very cold in the winter. It's like minus 26 degrees. But in the spring and the summer when it's like this, it's absolutely beautiful. Just over the other side of that river is the most amazing old medieval town, which has got the best food and the best nightlife you can come across. So if you ever get a chance, go to Vilnius in the summer and the spring. This is part of my team in Bulgaria. So we go on great nights out together. I lead about 300 people in total across every product line. So we have a lot of claims handlers who deal with a lot of problems from all over the world. But this is one of the award ceremonies. This was the Women in Insurance Awards in London. So this is some of our UK senior female leaders. This was a great event. It was celebrating all the women in our industry, which is a major breakthrough, because the insurance sector has been a bit old-fashioned in that regard for many years. But over the last 5 to 10 years, it's got really so much more popular and better. But the reason I wanted to show you this photograph was to just show you how successful people can be, irrespective of your whether you're a man or a woman, creed or colour. There is great success to be had in the insurance sector. So I don't want to talk too much more about my job because talking about insurance is pretty boring. But actually, I really want to make sure that you guys get the opportunity to ask me some questions. Helena, I love the fact you're outside.
Yes, I'm with my daughter, so half the time I can video, half the time not. Sorry. I do have a question in general, maybe. I mean, it's more geared towards me, and I don't know if it's going to relate to everyone, but I guess this is the point, right? So I guess embarking on new opportunities, especially during interviews and things like this, that can be very scary, and being honest is intimidating, you know, being yourself in this way, and trying to understand what the other person needs, or what those opportunities are. Do you have any sort of advice in that transitional time for anyone? I mean, this could be coming out of university and applying for a new job, or just through the interview process. That's scary, no matter where you are.
Yeah. Listen,
right?
interviews are always scary, okay? Because you want something and that you're trying to get it from these people, which is a job. But I can tell you, so I do lots of interviewing, and I can tell you from my own experience, it goes back to what I said on the last question, authenticity. I will know within a few minutes if you're being the real you, okay? And what people do in interviews is they become this kind of stranger who goes, oh, and everyone talks with a different voice, and people tie themselves in knots answering questions using words which they'd never use in day-to-day lives. You know, the reality is we're all just human beings, okay? And actually, the point of a job interview is your CV tells me if you're technically qualified, but it's you I want to know about. I want to know who you are. And therefore, I just want to hear about you. I want to see the real you, Helena and Isabella and the rest of you guys on this call. I want to see that person. And we do graduate interviews, which I guess a lot of you guys will be getting into that territory soon. And graduates fall into this dangerous trap where they big up their achievements to make them sound really good, when actually, you know, it's probably not quite as good as that. Those that are humble, those that just come and say, listen to me, I've not got much experience, that's the point of coming on this, for this opportunity. Those are the people that attract my attention, because that means I'm getting the authentic person, not someone who's trying to fill me with a load of waffle that I know straight away is not true. So be authentic, and don't be afraid to be. You should never be afraid to be who you are, ever, okay? Be afraid of being somebody different, because you can never maintain it.
Okay, ready and back from the second chance that you had to meet one of our speakers for today. And hopefully you got a chance to hear more about their story, and also to ask some of your great questions that were arising. And thank you again to all of our speakers for answering things along the way, both in the chat and in person. And guess what? This is a time of our program where we're going to all travel together. We're going to head out, and we're going to go on over to the G4G Atelier, that we call it, in Brussels, because I believe the team is cooking up something for us in the laboratory, and it's all about resilience. So let's head on over there and see and hear what they have to say.
Hi everyone, welcome to our G4G Atelier office with your G4G team, Indra and Alex. So today we heard from some amazing speakers on the theme of resilience. And of course, in typical G4G style, you're going to have a resilient experiment.
Indeed. So we're going to look at resilience today. So what is it? Resilience is actually an amazing tool or an ability that lets us tackle and take on all types of challenges. It is what lets us cope with uncertainties, complexities, and changes in the environments that we are part of. It connects to characteristics like stamina, but also our passion to reach long-term goals. Resilience, importantly, is also connected to our ability to continuously learn and to adapt to changes and things that we actually cannot change. So resilience is also our ability to learn to take different paths that can let us reach all those amazing goals that we have.
So in our experiment today, we're going to see how resilience helps us not only personally, but also our communities. Get ready.
Hi everyone, I'm Dana and I'm a new intern at G4G. Today I'm going to be doing a little experiment about resilience with the help of my younger sister Tala. Hi! So just like STEM, resilience can be found all around us and linked to so many different things. For example, we can look at it from a personal or mental angle. It can be seen as our ability to adapt to adversity and challenging situations, like being able to bounce back from a crisis. Think of a rubber band. You can stretch it out And when you release it, it springs back into shape because it's a very resilient material. A person's resilience connects to two things: biological effects and environmental effects. Biological effects refer to what you are born with. Some people are born more sensitive to negative effects in life than others, so we all have a unique level of resilience. Take our rubber band. It is a very resilient material, able to stretch a lot before snapping. But resilience can also be developed through environmental factors, especially at a younger age. Good support systems, for example, can help increase resilience. Let's do a quick experiment with rubber bands to demonstrate this. First, we're going to stretch one rubber band to see how easy it is. As you all saw, our one rubber band was really easy to stretch and stretched a lot under the force we applied. Now, let's try giving it 9 other family members and friends and see if together our 10 rubber bands are stronger and are more resilient under the force we apply. Together, our 10 rubber bands are a lot harder to stretch. As you all saw, the 10 rubber bands together were a lot harder to stretch than the one on its own. With a good support system, our rubber band was much more resilient and able to better withstand the force we were applying. The same applies to us. Like our rubber band, we can become more resilient if we surround ourselves with good support systems. These can help us to continue to persevere in new, unexpected, and challenging environments and situations. That's it for me today. I wanted to thank Tala for her amazing help. And now I'm going to pass you on to Indra. I can't wait to see what she has in store for you. Bye from me.
Next up is a super cool experiment that is inspired by the amazing patterns of resilience displayed in nature, including water.
Exactly. So in our experiment, we will actually demonstrate how we can challenge water to take different paths of different complexity and different levels of difficulty. And we will see that no matter what, water will always persevere and make its way to its final destination. Some paths may take more effort of the water and more time. However, water will always reach its end goal. So let's take a look.
As we saw, even though some paths took longer to complete, water always reached its final destination. And that's what resilience is, always finding a way.
Exactly. So because of water's amazing ability to always find its path, we can find incredible examples all around the world where water revitalized entirely dead or deserted landscapes. So when water found its way to those spots, whole new biospheres and ecosystems of life developed. Plants started to grow, insects and animals started to find a new home, and a totally self-sustaining organic system was created. So this is an amazing possibility that the resilience of water offers us and our environments around us. So all our experiments today have shown us that just like science, resilience is all around us and all about creating possibilities. We don't have to look far. All we have to do is look for resilience in ourselves, our communities, and in nature to find it.
We hope that you will be resilient, and we can't wait to look forward to seeing you on the next episode of Science You Had Me At Hello!
Thank you again to the team, to the G4G team in the atelier for always being inspiring with coming up with new experiments. I invite our speakers to come back into the studio and come back on stage so that we can have some final things to say. And we have some last steps to do before we end today, which has gone so super fast as always. I can't believe it. All right, welcome back. All right, thank you guys again for answering the questions that have been popping up. They've been brilliant. And thank you to our participants for asking these great questions. You know, that doesn't end. So I invite you, as we were all talking about building networks and making contacts and reaching out, guess what we could do? Guess what all of you can do? And that is to reach out to these fabulous speakers after the show. Reach out to them, link to them on LinkedIn, follow them on social media, see where different paths may take. And I can't think of a more perfect experiment that aligns with everything we just said, from all the different paths and how water kind of finds the way, just as we all have. So we have last two things to do because we've just gone by so quickly. We have one last question. I have one last question to mention to all of you that I'd like something for you to say. Then I'm going to actually, in a moment after all of that, invite everybody to come together, and because we'd like to have one picture of everybody that's here, which is amazing. So before I do, one last question, which is thinking about especially inspiring words. And you've heard some of their questions of some of the participants and also in your stories, and thinking about resilience. What is the last thing that you would give for advice to those that are out there figuring out what their next step is? Perhaps think back to 10 years ago yourself, or even longer, whatever it might be the case, but what is it that you could give for some last words of wisdom that everyone can take to heart and take them along their path? So with that, I'm going to pass this on first to Suzy. Suzy, do you have some words of wisdom to pass on?
I think network, develop as many relationships as you can, and really focus on the people that you find a connection with.
Great, thank you, Suzy. Simon.
But I'll go back to what I think for me, you just got to be true to yourself. It was one of the themes that came out on my second breakout session. Never change who you are. Just stay true to yourself and stay true to your path.
Love it, thank you very much. Marita.
So I have two things. The first one is to say, follow your dreams, think big, plan your future, and together with your team, with your organization, with your family, shape it.
Love it. Thank you so much. Sima.
Similar to Simon, you know, be true to yourself, but also believe in yourself. You'll have times where you don't, and try and find techniques that really help you get over that, because there will be times where you won't. But the biggest thing is believe in yourself, and make you can definitely do it. So
thank you so much. And Tessy.
So as I said already in my breakout rooms, I think I give everyone a little exercise which helped me to where I am today. It is, you know, where do you imagine yourself in the next 2 years, right? Write it down and be super honest with yourself, with all of the mistakes you have done, also what you can't do, what you think you can't do, because you can do everything you want. And with that list, as I said already several times today, is try to meet one person a day and write a log about that. And meaning these people, that can be the people in the bus. Say, what have you done for an obstacle? The baker, How do you open a business? The politician you like, the person you need on your list to get to where you are. What is your list? You want to become a doctor? Talk to your local doctor. You want to become a politician? Write your local politician. Whatever it is, do internships. So important. But that for 30 days, one person a day, write a log. It will change your life forever. And I want to hear about that. And I'm sure, Melissa, you too, right? Yes. Because it's just so fabulous, and just don't be scared of it, because it's just so beautiful. That would be mine for all of you, because I have done it and it was amazing.
Oh, thank you for that. Thank you, everyone. Such inspiring last words. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to invite all of our participants to turn on their video, because we'd love to see everybody all together. It's been a pleasure to be here today with all of you, and we can't wait until the next Science You Had Me at Hello.